and cryptographic novel. These are both phrases that, well, types of media that we have created and coined. We created them initially back in 2018 and have been leading the space in terms of this. But what does that actually mean? Well, it means that these are digital comics, and they can be print as well, but firstly, they're digitally scarce. And that's something that's enabled by way of blockchain technology. It also means that they're unforgeable in terms of your ownership of these assets that cannot be replicated or forged using blockchain and crypto technology. And that combined makes them collectible. So what this really introduces is a new way to have collectible digital media. And we think this is going to be really radical and dramatic in terms of its impact on the media landscape. Second thing, MetaKnights is the world's first cryptographic novel-driven video game. And that might sound like repetitive, but actually the combination of being able to use this blockchain technology and crypto enables us to do some really interesting things from a gaming perspective. And firstly, that enables us to create decentralized gaming platforms and experiences whereby the assets that are owned, whether that's in-game inventory or skins or the like, can be owned outside of the platform. And that's really important. And that's the same concept that goes into the comics themselves. But the thing that I think is particularly interesting in how we are approaching the MetaKnights franchise from a graphic novel, comic storytelling perspective embedded with gaming is it creates this intra-dimensional experience. And I know that sounds somewhat hyperbole, but I mean, even literally going from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions is something that is very easily navigated, but not only from 2 to 3, but then to 4 dimensions where you have time and space and delay kind of integrated into the experience as well. But this combined with cryptographic reward frameworks and this immutable component and this real value system, this crypto value system allows us to create a new kind of mixed reality experience that we believe is unprecedented. Of course, there's been a lot happening in the gaming, but with virtual reality and augmented reality, which of course will be extensions of what we're doing here. But starting from this comic space and bringing that into the gaming space through a crypto decentralized platform is world first in terms of what the MetaKnights franchise is. And then lastly, it's also this universal crypto media wallet. And this really goes to this whole point of self-sovereignty, i.e. controlled and owned by the user, very much peer-to-peer. And sorry, excuse, it's my dog. Best plans of mice and men. It's probably the postman, so excuse me. Sorry, let me just pause for a second and go and get him sorted out. Sorry about that. Yes, so publisher and platform agnostic, really critical in the sense that assets, it doesn't matter what happens to MetaKnights, it doesn't matter what happens to the franchise in the sense the assets that people own will be theirs and will be able to be held in their wallet. And so the wallet is agnostic to MetaKnights or any other platform and should be able to hold any compatible crypto media or NFTs as they've come to be known. Can you still see my screen? Is my screen still showing? Great. Okay. Okay. So let's move from that and move on to the business plan. For some reason, Zoom is telling me my screen is not sharing, but hopefully that is.
It's strange
showing okay.
I can see your screen, but I don't think the attendees can. So do you want to stop sharing?
Here we go.
Okay.
Can you see it? Okay, perfect. There we go. Awesome. Sorry, everyone. So let's march on with the business plan. So, okay. effectively, as we've discussed, cryptographic novels and crypto video novels are the first leg of our product plan in terms of our roadmap. And we've reached a pretty good state around that now. So that we've basically created the whole blockchain publishing platform, and we've created our first motion comics. So motion comics are a new type of um, animated media. They sit somewhere between traditional comics and animations, where you have sort of moving picture books. And we've created our own particular flavor of these crypto video novels that we call M books. And we've published our first two, or we've created, I should say, our first two pilot episodes in this motion comic format. They are yet to be published, but those have been completed. And we now have a whole pipeline. We're working on the first season of the graphic novel, which is 80% complete. And that's both in still and crypto video novel format as well, or M-book format as we call it. Also, our crypto video game, we announced last month our partnership with Unanimous Games. Unanimous Games is led by Bright Biggs, who used to head up mobile development for Jay-Z's Rock Nation. And so Unanimous Games is a very big esports player and video game developer. They've developed leading properties like the I'm having a break. God, I can't remember the name of the kids' video game that they just released. But Unanimous Games are big leaders in the game development space, and they're working with us to build out our first MetaKnights video game. That's coming along well as well. And then last phase of our roadmap would be developing TV shows and film series in different formats around the franchise. And we've been approached by some studios about that to date, but that's obviously much further down the road. Just really general sort of market overview. It's a big market, both if you look at it from a comics or gaming perspective. So in 2018, the North American market for comics was over $1 billion, and gaming is 150 billion plus. In 84 plus million comics sold in Canada and the USA, $100 million worth of digital downloads across this market alone. And with a 9.5% year-on-year growth, sales revenues for 2019 up on both dimensions in that space. In terms of our target audience, it skews slightly male, but we're very much centered on Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, younger Gen Zs and older Gen Alphas. And typically across the industry, you're seeing a circa $250 per annum spend by this demographic. But of course, these numbers are really kind of being bolstered dramatically with the advent of NFTs recently. So in terms of progress today, as we mentioned, over 800,000 raised on Start Engine already from 3,000 plus investors, over 30,000 views of our pilot series, which we published on our partner Comic Republic's platform. Comic Republic is our development partner, and we've had over 30,000 views of the pilot season there. We have developed 8 books already, so 6 new books that have not yet been published. 2 of those have been published as M books, as in motion comics. Have been developed as motion comics. We have not as yet published them, but we will be releasing them soon. And then we have our two pilot episodes that are published on Comic Republic's platform, where we've got the large viewership. Also, we won awards this year, January. It's all moving so fast. We are in crypto time already and on this reality. But we won the Best Blockchain Innovation Award at this year's CES Francophone Village competition, and the second place award, Silver Award for Best Education Innovation Project. So already making some good sort of ground and tracks in terms of the space. So the next thing that I really wanted to cover and talk about today is this real growing space of NFTs. So NFTs have really been the rage of late, and let's start by addressing what actually are NFTs. So NFTs primarily are digital certificates of ownership. Now, what that means is that an NFT is a not it's literally a non-fungible token, which is it's like a deed to a digital item. It can also be to a physical item, but it's something that cannot be replicated in cyberspace that allows you to prove that you own a particular thing. And that's really kind of a simplistic way of putting it, but it's driving a huge change across the media landscape. So one of the most notable projects in the NFT space is Dapper Labs NBA Top Shot. So now Dapper Labs are pioneers in the space, and many accord them with creating the NFT genre. They certainly led to the first NFTs on the Ethereum platform with their CryptoKitties project back in 2017, which really kind of introduced the concept of NFTs to the blockchain world in any significant scale. And what became they went away and have been developing this project NBA Top Shots in the last 2 years and launched it towards the end of last year. The project has raised over $305 million already. It had over 50 million in sales in its beta release from 8,000 users, which basically started in October of last year. So it's been a hugely successful project. But I think it's unquestionable that the project that has really put NFTs on the map this year in a very big fashion has been the Beeple's 5,000 Days art piece auction sold by Christie's last month. It fetched a whopping 69.3, that's actually a typo, $69.3 million dollars in as a sale price. And it's the highest selling NFT to date by far. And it also, interestingly, because of the scale of the price of this, Beeple is now the third highest grossing art piece sold by any living artist. So only really eclipsed by David Hockney and John Kurtz. Jeff Koons, that's it, sorry. Jeff Koons as the two sort of other leading artists. So already, and this is really significant. I think one of the things that I think is really important to note about this, I do not know any time in history where any technology has been led in terms of how it's being adopted and utilized by the art industry. And so I think this really forebodes really well in terms of the future of the crypto movement and the blockchain space, because, you know, when you have this fusion of best in class technology and best in class art, you effectively get a new state of the art, which I think is what we're seeing an expression of. Well, let's move on to the real important matter at hand. MetaKnights NFTs. What are they? What does that mean? And what do they look like? Well, I'm really excited to announce that we're going to be launching our own series of NFTs. Now, actually, interestingly enough, our project really has always been about NFTs. When we started it back in 2019, the term NFTs was only really used esoterically within the crypto community. So we called them digital collectibles. But really, digital collectibles are NFTs. So we really have been at the forefront of this NFT movement really for the last 2 years in terms of what we've been working on with this project. But none that aside, onto the detail, what we are going to be releasing is some artwork from the comic series. And because again, the primary medium of these comics is to be digital, it means that we can do some interesting things in terms of the artwork. So artwork will be released in the forms of some of the artwork in terms of some of the pages from the comics, and we'll have posters and other cover artwork that will be released in limited edition amounts and different guises, and then also motion artwork. So whether that's motion pages or motion posters or motion frames from particular elements of the story will be released as NFTs. Now, the entire catalog, I mean, the actual episodes themselves will be released as NFTs as well, though in larger volumes. So the artwork pieces will be in smaller volumes. In fact, we're looking at circa 186, well, in fact, actually 186 of each of those of each artwork piece, but we will be releasing limited editions of artwork pieces with each episode. And those will take the form of frames, posters, and specific pieces accordingly. And in many ways, I think that because this genre that we're introducing brings this new sort of balance between still and motion and video and graphic design in that sense, there will have a very interesting creative canvas from which to play with different types of NFTs as we go through the cycle there. So, you know, stay tuned, and it's going to be really exciting. And again, we like NBA Top Shots in a way, we see this as a growing, percolating movement that will evolve and grow with time. So on to the first NFTs that we're going to be launching and releasing, and showing specifically what they are. So we went through the archives and went through all our content and selected three very particular or three NFTs. We're releasing 4 NFTs initially, and we've been very sort of thoughtful around what the first NFT should be. And we've chosen this artwork, from our first episode, which is episode 0 of MetaKnights. And this is page 3 from that episode, where Satoshi is introduced as one of the lead characters in the saga. So this is the first time we sort of see Satoshi. The first NFT will be of that colored inked work. The second NFT will be of this line art. And this is kind of more for the collectible connoisseurs out there in the comic space, where it's the monochromatic line art drawing of this page that will be released as the second NFT. And then the third will be the motion page of this scene, where you've got the script and the whole narrative that builds up around it, where you'll be able to see all of those, that story told through those. So these will be 3 different separate NFTs that we will be releasing. And then the fourth NFT will be a bundle containing all of these together. So inked colored pages, line art, motion page, and then a bundle containing all 4 of those. We'll be releasing each of them a week apart. So the first one will be released first on the 12th of May at 1800 Eastern. That will be when that first NFT drop will happen, and it will continue. The auction, they will all be sold through auction on the Rarible site, and we'll give you details of where that will be shortly. But they will essentially last for 186 hours only. So Wednesday the 12th at 6 p.m. Eastern until 12 midday on the 20th is 186 hours. That's when the auction will end for the first NFT. Then that's when we'll launch the auction for the second NFT accordingly. And this number 186, you'll see as a recurring theme throughout not only the story of MetaKnights as it evolves, but also through our NFT launches and through our NFT scenario. So pay attention, and we'll be giving Easter eggs and prizes in the future for people to can decode what that 186 is about and what it means. So stay tuned for that. But these are the critical dates and times for the release. You can go to rarible.com /MetaKnights to find this specific NFTs that we'll be launching. But as I say, they won't be available until Wednesday, the 12th at 6 p.m. But we do suggest that you go on board and register and get yourself set up, there's a bit of a climb to becoming crypto active, as we call it, setting up your wallets and being in a position that you're able to make place bids and make auctions or buy these assets. So we suggest that you take the time to get acquainted and get yourself set up accordingly. And that's why we're letting the auctions run for a whole week, so that people have enough time to get themselves set up as they're needed. So that's really it for now. I'll pass over to Pasna for any questions.
Thank you, Dele. That was fantastic. There's so much excitement in the chat. People are loving what you have to present about the MetaKnights NFTs. And we actually have our very first question here in the chat box as well. David Lewis just asked, will the NFTs be released on the Ethereum mainframe, Matic, Polygon, or DAI? Which exchange? OpenSea, Rarible, etc.
Yeah, so they will be on Rarible initially, and it's a great question that you asked, Dave, because I think you know, we've looked at this NFT space in a lot of detail, and in fact, we always came at this project looking at NFTs and looking at, when we look at our core platform, MetaMe, that is very much around data ownership, we've always had a view, a close view about what NFTs are. So the important thing is, I think that there are 3 layers to NFTs. And the first layer is really about minting, creating, minting, and buying NFTs in the first place. And that's really kind of, whether it's Rarible or whether it's Nifty or OpenSea, are kind of the primary places where that happen. And in this sense, we are going to initially at least go with Rarible. But for me, that's really the top of the funnel. So it's not so important for us where these are issued. And, you know, there in the future, we may issue other NFTs on other platforms. We're kind of platform agnostic is an important framework for us. And that also will include other blockchains as well, because I don't think Ethereum is the only blockchain. But initially, they will go onto the Rarible platform. But I think the interesting thing that follows on from that is then about holding your NFTs. So for us, that's where the rubber gets a little bit more interesting, because that's really about the wallet space. And we're going to figure that out in terms of which of these platforms work best with our wallet and marketplace context. OpenSea is probably the leader in the space, but we're looking at other solutions and making strategic decisions around that as it goes.
Awesome. Thank you, Dele. So there are a number of questions in the chat box. We'll try to address as many as we can here. Noble Simpson is asking, how can we start obtaining the tokens? And yeah, we can start with that one, and then.
Yeah, it's a good question. So essentially, you know, again, we're quite keen to separate. In our universe, there are 3 kind of key types of crypto assets. There's cryptocurrencies, digital collectibles, and then data, or MPODs as we call them, which is our own unique data asset. So we're very currency agnostic. So we're not really promoting any particular currency or coin at this stage. So with Rarible, you can make purchases in Ethereum, Bitcoin, multi-currencies, but you do have to set up a wallet, which can either be MetaMask or CoinDesk are probably 2 of the lead ones, and use that to make bids. So in terms of the currencies, you can get them, you can buy ETH. You'll have to buy ETH or whatever currency you want to use, but you'll be able to buy the tokens essentially from Wednesday the 12th onwards, on the Rarible platform, with whichever currency you choose.
Thank you. Jamar Freeze asks, what are some potential blockers or challenges that you see as you continue to expand into this uncharted space?
I mean, you know, it's a great question, Jamal. You know, I think there's always a resistance from the status quo to adopting new technologies and new frameworks. But, you know, one of the things I find most exciting about the crypto space is that it's not really a space that asks for permission. It's just coming through. Now, regulation has been a big barrier to the industry, particularly here in the US, with SEC making it, pretty strict. But with Reg CF, that's actually what's been really exciting about Start Engine and Reg CF, because that's given us an opportunity to start these projects directly talking to our market, to the crowd. And with the recent increases of the SEC limits from $1 million and 70,000 up to $5 million, this is very exciting. So it means that this project we can continue in this vein that we have been going, and raise up to $5 million. So I think regulation and is probably the biggest barrier. And I would say the other big barrier is just usability, user friendliness. It's still quite difficult to get a wallet established and to get onto, be able to make crypto purchases. We're trying to do a lot to make that easier with our M-Wallet model, but that's going to still, there's a lot of technical hurdles to overcome to achieve that. So I would say that's probably going to be the biggest barrier to adoption, is making this user friendly and simple enough for people to get on board quickly. So I will say, the earlier you kind of get crypto active and kind of get a wallet and understand how this works, the easier you'll be able to, the sooner you'll be able to participate in the crypto economy.
Fantastic. Another question from Herman is, will we get any copies? And then he also asks, will there be any copies of episodes, and how can we buy the books or comic books?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, effectively, this is the first stage of us releasing our products commercially, using NFTs and making them available through these open networks like Rarible and Nifty and OpenSea. Our strategy is to introduce our wallet and to use our wallet as a marketplace, as a driver place for where acquisitions will be. So we will be releasing the episodes, the comics themselves, in parallel with our wallet. I can't give you a specific date on that at the moment, but we have been working. We've pretty much completed the designs for the wallet experience and the framework, and we're now just building it out. And even on the build side, we've got all the back end stuff done in terms of publishing. Our partnerships in terms of the publishing framework and models are established, and it's really just the application, the DApp development, and integrating that with the blockchain backend and having a robust framework in terms of managing the ownership. There are some interesting things we're trying to do in terms of how people can read and share their content in our wallet experience that still requires a bit of heavy lifting. So I would hazard I would say our objective is by the end of Q3 to be able to put the wallet in people's hands and for episodes to be purchasable through it. We have got partnerships for some other formats, like our motion books. Potentially we might be releasing with Unanimous Games on their platform. But effectively, we would say sort of Q3 is probably a realistic time frame for when you'll be able to buy the episodes specifically on our platform. In the meantime, though, you can still see the first 2 pilots on the Comic Republic platform for free.
Awesome, thank you. So we'll take a few more NFT questions, and then we'll dive into the investment specific questions as well, since I know that there are some of those on the chat floating around. So David Lewis asks, are you onboarding any ambassadors? Would love to push MetaKnights on CH, Discord, etc.
That's a fantastic question. And that's actually a really significant part of our go-to-market strategy. Yes, so we will be doing an ambassador program and a bounty program. A lot of that, again, and this is one of the reasons, the complexities in the wallet, that we're using the wallet to be able to enable bounties and rewards is really part of our model around that. So yes, and we actually have a couple of celebrity, in fact, one specific that we'll be announcing soon, a celebrity partner endorsement as an ambassador. But Grassroots Ambassadors we are a community-led initiative. So that's a really important part for us. And yes, there will be a robust ambassador member get member rewards program that we're introducing. And we actually have a partnership with Odua Coin to actually reward people with crypto for that. So all of the building blocks are in place. We just really need to integrate them and tie them together in the wallet to make it really easy for people to do that. But yes, a big ambassador program will be coming forward.
Fantastic. Um, since we're limited on time, we're going to move into the investment specific questions now. Damaris Morse is asking, how much do you plan on raising on Start Engine and what are your fundraising goals?
So I have to be careful about how I talk about this because the SEC guidelines and rules are pretty rigorous about this. But in the short term, I would say, well, we're on this current campaign that we have on Start Engine has a goal of $1,070,000, which is the ceiling of what was allowed when we started this. So that's our initial goal, to raise $1,070,000, $1 million essentially, and we've raised 800,000 of that already thus far. So we're very close on completing this first role. But of course, this is a relatively capitally intensive business. So we will be doing future fundraising events, and the nature of how they will shape up will become apparent as we go forward.
Awesome. Dave Altman is asking, investing versus trading in crypto assets is inherently a belief of future usability, accessibility, and scalability in digital ecosystems. MetaMe clearly aligns itself for that. Where do you want your entire platform to be by the end of 2022?
That's a great question, Dave. You know, by the end of 2022, we basically, from a MetaMe perspective, we basically have three key go-to-market products we're focused on. MetaKnights, the whole MetaKnights story, which is really about the story of crypto and the kind of cultural engagement with it. MetaTerra, which then becomes, and that's a bit of a sneak giveaway really, for our video gaming aspect of it, which will be the MetaKnights expression through video gaming. And then the last piece is our Health ID product, which is actually really working furiously away on the pandemic. And we have a really interesting plan on bringing all three of these together into an integrated experience offering over the course of the next year and a half. So by the end of 2022, really, we want to have all of this really working as a seamless experience, getting these wallets into people's hands, and really have a significant adoption, a few 100,000 people using our platform, using our wallet, using this, interacting with the MetaKnights saga, with the MetaTerra gaming experience, with our Health ID product in a really seamless way. I think if we can achieve that by then we're really in a good position to really kind of go to the next phase of our mission, which is really kind of how do we scale this? How do we really get this scaled and really kind of get it to, millions of people across the planet?
Awesome, fantastic. Mark Anderson asks, what is the action plan for going public?
We're a crypto company, right? We're a blockchain company, we're a crypto company. The dynamics of going public in a crypto company are slightly different from a traditional company because, okay, we don't really have ICOs in the same way that we did before, but certainly I think the evolutionary path for us would be that effectively at some point our stock would become security tokenized. We would tokenize the equity in our company, which introduces liquidity and the ability for it to be traded, on secondary markets. And then, in the longer term, it would be introducing a currency framework that it could be more directly integrated with our economy. And these are big sort of liquidity events in the crypto world. So, in the crypto organization, a crypto enterprise has got a slightly inverted model to a traditional company in that regards. So you kind of have these big liquidity events early, and then you build out your ecosystem. And then we haven't really seen any of those ecosystems go public as of yet, because there isn't necessarily a need to do so. So I'm not saying that we're restricted either way. And I think the way that we've structured our organization where we separate the economy from the enterprise and from the platform and from the tech in that sense, gives us a lot of flexibility. So I guess, you know, it's that there are multiple exit paths for us as an organization in that sense. But you know, I think our focus now is really on building the ecosystem, building the platform, building the experiences, and really creating value for our investors in the immediate sense. And I think that in terms of providing investors with exit routes for liquidity, there are many innovations that are on the horizon that don't necessitate having to necessarily do an IPO to do that. That said, you know, I think, you know, in terms of remaining, certainly IPO is more attractive than acquisition, I think, in terms of growing the community as well. So we have to look at it all in perspective, but I think it's too early for us to be able to give any kind of realistic answer about where we would hit that trajectory.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we'll take 3 final questions and then we're going to wrap. Jamar Fries asks, what are expected revenue projections for 2022 auto use?
So our revenue projections are very conservative, and I can't remember exactly off the top of my head exactly what it is for 2022. I believe that, in fact, if I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a second and I'll give you a precise answer on that, because I think it is a question that is worthy of a specific response. But while I do that, what I will say is that you know, we basically base our initial projections on the sales associated with with a, a, a successful comic series, and with a little bit of projections based on gaming revenues and the like, because we are still relatively nascent in terms of our projections in terms of the evolution of our gaming platform. But essentially our projections are, and I'm looking at them now actually, our projections for 2022 is that we'll have 109,000 subscribers and players. So again, you can kind of do the math around, as I showed, industry standards around about 250 revenue per user based on those. But I will say those are just kind of based on traditional comic sales, and with a little bit of kind of video gaming sales. I think NFTs have a potential to really kind of knock those numbers in a very sort of different, well, same direction, but a much higher, faster and rapid trajectory. So you're on mute, Upasana.
I said, awesome. So Brave Monk actually also has a question that I want to address here. He asks, will we be able to add to our initial investment, and will you have incentives and opportunities for artists, creatives involved in your ecosystem?
Two very good questions. The short answer on the investment side is yes. You may have to sort of ask us directly because it's a little bit difficult to track that, but in the spirit of it, absolutely yes. And as our project evolves, we'll automate these processes and make it a bit more easy for people to basically, so certainly that you can certainly add to your investment. I think some of the questions we've had in the past is like the tracking of the perks as those investments increase. So the principle is yes, that we're happy to do that, but you have to just bear with us because we don't have an automatic way of facilitating that. But in principle, we're happy to do that. And on the creative artist side, it's a question we get asked a lot, and it's phenomenal. And yes, you know, we're very keen to involve artists and to create an open environment. MetaKnights is designed to be an open platform, an open world, an open verse. You know, it's perhaps we think it's going to be one of the most important expressions of the metaverse. So absolutely, we'd love to get more artists involved with that. I think in the short term, that's where, if you are an artist and you have interest in working with us, just reach out to us directly. and we'll kind of do that a little bit more offline in the short term, and then kind of figure out how we can promote it together online. But in the future, yes, we'll create, the platform will enable this more by default, particularly the M-Wallet framework, to enable more artists and more creativity and more, you know, we believe in that prosumer world where you're not just a consumer of content, but you're a producer of content as well. So that's very much part of our future vision.
Awesome. Okay. I think that is a wrap. The final question that we want to address by Sarah Bradbury is, how can I invest? And so you can actually, for anyone that's interested, you can actually go to start at www.startengine.com/MetaKnights. I'm going to post the link in the chat box in just a few seconds. And you can invest for as low as 100, but there are different perks and different tiers of investments. So we do encourage you to read through the campaign page and consider, you know, investing what you feel comfortable with putting in, based on the conversation we just had with Dele. And we're so grateful for, you know, this fantastic community of investors and supporters that are standing by Dele, as you know, he really is kind of one of the early pioneers in the NFT and crypto space, and really paving the way for entrepreneurship in this industry. All right, Dele, do you have any final words before we wrap?
So firstly, I would like to thank Upasana for doing a fantastic job of kind of moderating this, and with the whole team back at DNA, working closely with us to help facilitate this. So thank you there. But then really, last thing I just want to say is a huge thanks to our community. You know, if we would not be here without you, and you have brought this project to where it is today. Your support, both financial and emotional support, has, and you know, with a project like this, you get a lot of trolls, and it's phenomenal how our community kind of comes to online, and we're not blind to that, and we don't take it for granted at all, and we don't take you for granted at all. So a really huge thanks out to our community for your continued support. It means the world to me and to the whole team, and we're really excited about how we can kind of take this project forward together with you. So just really a big thank you to everyone out there for also coming and participating today, and for continuing to be part of this project.
Yeah, and then we will have the recording of this webinar distributed by tomorrow. So if you want to backtrack and you know, hear Dele answer certain questions, that recording should be available for you all very shortly. And there are more to come. This is the first of many webinars to come. So save your questions for future webinars. We'll have one. We'll be planning one for next month as well.
Yes, absolutely. And do please feel free to reach out to us through the traditional channels if you have any further questions in the meantime. But as Upasana said, we look forward to doing more of this with you soon.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dele, for the amazing presentation. That is officially a wrap.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.